Welcome, everyone, to Stepping Into Your Leadership. I'm your host, Christine Courtney. Our goal here is to give you some actionable takeaways that will help you lead your teams. Thanks for joining us on this leadership journey. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our last week of our summer series. And I'm super excited to be in the studio with Blanca Winkfield and Tom Armstrong again, two of my favorite people and wonderful supervisors and managers and leaders in their own right. So we're here today. And if you're just tuning in, boy, oh boy, do you have months worth of drama-packed, solution-oriented podcasting wonderfulness for you to listen to if you want to go back and listen to our summer series. Basically what we did, this is Tatiana's idea, yay, one of our producers, Tatiana. Basically, we give a problem that a manager would have, and we have two different takes at least on how that problem could be handled. And then at the end, we do a little lightning round. We ask as many questions in 2 minutes as we can get through that are around leadership. So if you want to go back and listen to any of this summer, feel free to listen. We have at least more than a dozen, maybe more than 20 different issues that people can listen to and hear different takes on how you can handle them. All right. So here's our last one for this summer. Are you guys ready? Here we go.
Ready.
This is Bob. We haven't talked about Bob yet, but Bob is a longtime employee nearing retirement. He's having difficulty adapting to new technologies and modern work practices that the younger team members are proficient in. This generational gap is causing friction and slowing down team progress. How do you address these differences, leverage Bob's experience, but also help to create team harmony and productivity with Bob and the rest of your team? All right, Tom. No. I'm going to have Blanca go first on this one. All right, Blanca.
I was so ready, though.
You were ready.
I was so excited.
For me, I think you have to figure out what it is that Bob brings to the team and always make him the expert on that. So, he has something to feel really proud about, something that, can galvanize people around him, because it is such a hard thing, because I am that person. I know nothing about technology. I'm the worst at it. And I think people, needless to say, don't bring me technology issues. They bring other things to me that they know that I'm better at. And so I think if you find that for him, then he'll feel, he gets to feel really good about himself. And then the other people get to see like, oh, he does know stuff, because I think that's a hard one. If they think he doesn't know anything because he doesn't know the technology, especially if there's a manager involved who knows the scenario, you have to be the person to see all the benefits of him and, where he struggles a little bit and make sure that his benefits, outweigh the places where he struggles.
All right, Tom.
Yeah, it's context dependent on this, because I think if the company's changing along with the technology, and let's just say, we haven't specified, but just say that for Bob, he has to catch up. Like, in order to do his job effectively, he has to learn these new technologies. I'm not saying he does generally, but in this case, let's just say that that's what's happening. Then as his supervisor, I have to take that into consideration and do this for the whole team, like assess who's doing well. Bob's the one struggling. So this is not the kind of thing where I can say, like, if Bob's showing up late, I give him feedback on that. But this is a much longer learning curve. So I'm just going to sit down with Bob, have a very collaborative meeting with him. Not in a passive aggressive sense of that word, but a genuinely collaborative meeting where we sit down, we identify the situation and the areas where he needs to learn and grow to stay in a position, give him the support that he needs to get there, and set up benchmarks with him. And they have to be realistic and they have to be collaboratively set. Bob is totally capable of learning this stuff. It's just that for me, the stuff that I have to learn that's new, it takes extra work. It's like I'm used to coasting on the knowledge that I have, and I don't even know I'm doing that. But now I have to do what I used to do, which is learn new technology again. So now I'm learning the new stuff. It takes some time. And as long as my boss understands and is patient with me and is giving me the support I need, I think that's going to end up well. It might take him 6 months. But as long as we have benchmarks and things that we're progressing towards on the way, then that's good. It takes a lot of work on me as a supervisor. It's extra effort on my part, but it's support that he needs is going to help him in his career in the long term. So that's basically the way. If Bob literally cannot learn the new technology, then that's a different conversation, And if literally if you can't do this role without the technology and Bob is showing no desire to learn it, will not learn it, that is an issue. Then it's a whole new complication. You have to find the role for Bob where you don't need it. That's reality.
Well, especially because he's so close to retirement, yes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The poor guy.
Yeah.
All right. Tatiana put her camera on, so I know she wants to pipe in on this. Hello, Tatiana. What do you have to say?
Hi. Yeah, no, I just, from the experience of releasing new applications and that kind of stuff, I think having an adoption phase and making sure that that's long enough so that you have a plan on how to do that and that it's in phases so that, because potentially someone's going to learn the technology really quickly and make those people leaders in terms of having personal training sessions. What's the hold up? What's the hang up? Because I think what people mistakenly do is not have enough training sessions or have enough problem solving sessions for those kind of things, because other people might be struggling too, even though they might be like, oh, I know where to click. That doesn't necessarily mean that they know the technology, because the thing is, like, when you're adopting a new application, it is to make something more efficient that, in this example, Bob already does. It's just not as efficient. So for example, like implementing Salesforce for the first time, it's essentially taking away all these different, let's say, Excel sheets into just one huge Excel sheet where all the information kind of links. So it's just like Bob already kind of does that. He just is used to his own system. So part of implementing the new application or the new software would just kind of be like understanding what happens in the real world with that stuff in the past and how does it make it more efficient in this new application.
Yeah. And I think for some people, especially if, Blanca, you kind of keyed in on this, is that Bob, there's a certain ego that's going to be there, right? That's very difficult to say in front of people who are a lot younger and newer to the company, presumably, that you're saying, I don't really know. I'm uncomfortable. I feel there's a lot of humility that's required. Mm-hmm. And some people might not like to learn that way. And so they maybe feel threatened that way. It also generationally is unusual. Like in their time, you didn't say as much that you didn't know or you needed help. And so a lot of times companies I see are putting out different ways to learn. So maybe you have a forum where you can go into where someone is leading the class. Sometimes it's recorded, so you can do it privately and learning online in a longer way. There's different modalities of learning that might help the employee that you could have that conversation with. Like, do you want private tutoring? Do you want to work with your team? Maybe there's a young person who really Bob and him or her get along, and you can say, hey, you teach them this and they're going to teach you this, right? Because presumably Bob has something to give before retirement that you want to hold on to that institutional knowledge that's going to be leaving there, right? Bob probably understands a lot of the why or the context behind stuff that some of the young people, newer people to the organization might not know. But I think this is really valuable conversation right now because so many AI is taking the workplace by storm. Yep. You know what I mean? ChatGPT is just one part of it. There's so many other things that are going in daily now that we are just every moment people are like, how do I keep up with this?
Yeah, that's a really good example. Actually, that's better because that's a general use thing. It's like the equivalent. It's not quite the equivalent, but it's pretty close to either having a cell phone or not having one. There was a time when you didn't need it when cell phones were new. But over time, it became something that if you don't have it, you're what's going to happen. And AI is in everything. It's going to be in the new iPhone that's coming out, and it's just integrated into everything. So if you're not learning it, it's really important to start to dive into it. People are afraid of it because they think it's going to end the world. But it's actually, if you use it right, it can make you smarter. GPS made me dumber because I don't know how to drive a car now without it GPS, but there's ways that AI can actually improve your performance and make you smarter if you use it right.
Well, and I think that it's about how much do you really care about Bob? Because if Bob's retiring, the thought that technology is leaving his life is false. The reality is you can have a conversation like, Bob, there's going to be you're still got a lot of years left of living. And to Tom's point here with the cell phone, you figured out this. Like the point is like, there's a lot of studies that show as we age, it's very good to keep up with this stuff for our brains, right? So we don't start atrophying our brains. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. Now we're going to go to a lightning round. I'm going to start with Blanca first. No, I started with her first before. Tom, I'm going to start with you first, and then we'll go to Blanca on the first question. You ready?
I think so.
How do you stay inspired and continue growing as a leader?
That is a great question. I would say meditation. I mean, because it helps me to stay grounded. It keeps me out of the cycle of the spinning stuff that goes on in my brain that's distracting me and making me think that things are sometimes bad when they're not so bad. Also, I have a great boss who can I can talk to about my anxieties, and she actually helps to calm them. So it's a combination of things. But yeah, it's, I would say, a great tool. There's a bunch of tools, but it's a really good one is meditation.
Great. Blanca.
Same on that. But I'd also say I continue my inspiration from my kids. I have a very big need to be a great leader for them in that way, or a great role model and representation. So they inspire me to be a better person in all the things that I do all the time. So that's probably one of my first lines of defense, honestly.
That's great. Okay. So, Blanca, what is a phrase or mantra that you use in work situations for yourself when it's time to get it done? You know?
Hmm. That's so funny. And I think anybody who knows me knows I'm just like, get it done, girl. That's like it's just anybody knows I love a quick 2-minute meeting. I, don't take a long time doing things. I'm like, just do it. Like it is just innate in me. I'm that person.
All
Yeah.
right. Get it
Get
done,
it done,
girl.
girl.
All right. Tom.
Yeah, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. 90% is good enough is one that I've heard before. It's not applied to everything, not for heart surgery, but there's sometimes when you can use that mantra.
That's great.
What gets measured gets done is another one,
Oh my goodness, Tom, you're full of them. What gets measured gets done. 90% is good enough. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Get it done, girl. Yep. All right. Tom, how do you approach conflict resolution within your team?
Well, it depends on the conflict. Sometimes it's good for team members to work out their own thing. You don't always need to get involved. Even if someone brings it up to me, I'll sometimes look at it and be like, I'll give you some ideas for how to work this out with your team member, but I think you guys can do this on your own. You know what I mean? Like empower people to fix stuff themselves. Also remembering that sometimes often the conflict is really good people can be turned into enemies of each other if you set up the system wrong. So it's also, I'm looking at the system I set up to make sure that it's not creating the conflict.
All right, Blanca.
First is the problem really a problem? Because I think that happens so many times in teams. Is the conflict really a conflict? Like, is it, I'm very much like, is somebody being born or somebody dying? No, we can fix it then. Like, those are two things that are pretty hard to put the cork back in the bottle on. But everything else, we can sit down and have a real adult conversation about it. And then, and figure out how to make this better.
Yeah, because sometimes you're right. There's something going on, but it really is about communication.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It's almost always fixed by talking to each other, even though that's the thing we don't want to do. We want to talk to everybody else. I love it, you guys. Thank you. Thank you for talking with us today, for getting it done. We hopefully did not let perfect be the enemy of good. But you're all a dang good. So thank you for being here. Thanks for listening to our summer series, and we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye, Blanca. Bye, Christine.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'd like to give a special shout out to our podcast producer, Richard Francisco. Check out our notes for any details. And if you get anything out of this, please follow us. And if you enjoy it, please take a moment to rate us or write a comment. It will mean the world to us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you just can't get enough, follow me on TikTok and check out tlpnyc.com/podcast for more information.